Hi, Orange Theory Fitness. My name is Erin Buffuno, and I'm a physical therapist with Freedom Physical Therapy Services. And I'm here to go through a lower extremity or lower body stretching routine for you guys here today. So if this goes without saying, if anything hurts while we're doing it, please modify it. I will give a couple modifiers as we go through, but if this doesn't feel good for you, please feel free to skip it or try to modify it as best as you can. So we're going to start in standing, and we're going to start with standing hip, knee to chest here. So you're just going to take one knee, hold to your chest till you feel a nice little stretch, and then we're going to alternate. So we're going to start with just a little bit of movement stretches first before we get into more of our static stretches, as that would be used more of as a cool down. So this one, if you wanted to modify, if you're feeling any pinching in the front of the hip as you're getting to the top, so right up here at the groin region, I advise not pulling up so high. So if you get to the top and you feel a pinch, drop it back and just enjoy the stretch right there. Even if you don't necessarily feel a big stretch in your glutes or in the back near your hamstrings, that's okay. I'd rather have you feel less of a stretch over having a pinch through the front of the hip. If this is something where you feel like you can't keep your balance, please hold on to a wall or a nearby item just so that you can have proper balance and you don't feel like you're going to fall as you're holding this stretch. Good. So now this next one is going to get a little bit more complicated, but it's also going to be a slight movement stretch. We're going to put one foot in front of the other, trying to keep your feet wide as about hips width apart. You're going to think tall, and you're going to think a slight pelvic tilt. So pelvic tilt meaning I'm going to exaggerate this here. So if I let my back arch, you're going to pull just to help neutralize your spine. As I'm there, you're going to think of keeping your heel down in the back, so you might feel a little calf stretch, and then you might feel a little stretch to the front of your hip. We're now going to take my right foot's behind, my right arm is going to come up over the top, and we're going to gently twist our body to the right as my arm comes up. And then we're going to bring everything back down. My right leg is behind, my right leg is going to go up, right arm goes up, twist my upper body to the right, and then I want you to exhale as you twist. Come back down. We're going to do that 2 more times. Exhale. Good. Inhale. Exhale. Good. So I love stretches like this. I love to do kill one bird with 2 stones, but really like how many muscles can we stretch at one time? One foot in front of the other. So now my left foot is behind. Again, I'm going to think of that pelvic foot tilt first. If you're trying to do hip flexor stretching and you feel like you're aggressively lunging and it's starting to bother the front of your hip, think less of a lunge. Perform that pelvic tilt to neutral spine, thinking of, again, almost flattening out that low back. Your heel is down in the back to try to get a little bit of a calf stretch. Now my left hand is going to come up over the top. I'm going to twist my upper body to the left. So I'm going to inhale, exhale as I raise my arm up, and twist that body to the left. Good. Come down, inhale, exhale. Feel a nice stretch come up through my obliques, through my hip flexors. Good. One more. Inhale, exhale. Good. So now we're actually going to take that same exact stretch and we're going to take it to the floor. With this one, I like to roll up a mat to put underneath my knee. You can just go right down onto your yoga mat or your stretching mat on the floor. But I like to fold up a mat for my knees. So now I'm going to have one foot in front. If you feel like you're unsteady, try to widen that front foot so you can get a better base for your hips. You're going to stand here again nice and tall. My right leg is on the ground. Again, we're trying to stretch that same hip flexor region, but we're also getting a little bit more deeply into our low back and our lats as we drop to the floor. We're going to perform that nice pelvic tilt. So now I really feel that stretch come in through that front of my thigh, my hip flexors, and that upper portion of my quads. I'm going to put one hand on the inside of my left knee, but I'm going to take that same right hand, reach up, exhale, and twist, and you're really going to feel that deep stretch through that front of that body. Good. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Inhale. Exhale. And you can follow your eyes with your hand. So you don't have to stay looking straight ahead. Follow your eyes with your hand. Follow your hand with your eyes, I guess. Okay, and let's go ahead and switch sides. So you can either switch feet there, but I'm going to do this for ease of showing on the camera. So my left leg is now my front leg. That is the knee down on the floor. Again, you can move that front leg wider so you have a nice base if you feel a little unsteady. You're going to perform that nice pelvic tilt. So what I was talking about in standing is if you feel like you're doing a lot of aggressive forward lunging, you can take that lunge back, perform a pelvic tilt, and I already feel that hip flexor stretch coming in right here. So we're going to maintain that with that nice pelvic tilt positioning. My right hand is coming to the inside of my right knee, and my left hand is going to help me reach up over top. So I'm going to inhale. As I exhale, reach and twist. And you feel that stretch again all the way through that side body down the front of your leg. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Last one, exhale. Very good. Okay, so now we're going to unroll our mat if you did roll it up. Otherwise, you can just utilize your mat as is on the floor. Now I'm going to have you lay on your back. So now we're going to start focusing more into the hip and glute musculature that we have. So you're going to start with one leg straight, and your other leg is going to just perform your general knee to chest. So very similar to how we did the standing knee to chest, but now since we're not trying to focus on balance, we're going to let that stretch kind of go a little bit more, a little deeper. Being mindful, as I said earlier, if you're doing knee to chest and you feel any pinching during the front, into the front of that hip, this is where you'd want to back off. If you're feeling stretching in the back, that's fine, and you can continue to feel that. But if you're feeling some sort of pinching or discomfort in the front of the hip, that's when you would want to back off. We're going to hold here. If holding over the top of your knee hurts, you can always grab behind just to take some pressure off of that knee. And in a perfect world, you'd like your other leg to be straight, only because that will further increase the stretch you're experiencing when you bring your knee to chest. Good. Now we're going to drop that leg down, bring the other leg up, pull in until you feel a nice stretch, but no pinching in the front of your hip. If your back does not tolerate that right leg or your opposite leg being straight, you can always bend that leg up. But if you're trying to increase the stretch, you can take that and that opposite leg and straighten it out. Good. Now we're going to switch back to the other side. We're going to pull that knee up towards our chest again, but now we're going to think of pulling it towards the opposite shoulder. So as I pull my knee towards the opposite shoulder, I feel that stretch shift from directly in the middle of my glutes more to the outside. This is very similar to a figure 4 stretch if you'd like to intensify the stretch and make it harder, or if you would like to bring your bottom leg up, switch your legs through or your hands through your legs and hold that for an even deeper stretch. But for someone that might be having hip pain, or if it was a tough workout and you're feeling really sore, just pulling that knee towards the opposite hip can do something very similar, but a little less aggressive. As you pull across, you want to make sure you're not pulling it so your whole body is rotating. You'd like to keep your back flat on the mat for this one. Good, now we'll switch sides. So again, my other leg is straight. I'm going to pull my knee up towards me first, and then I'm going to pull it across my body towards the opposite shoulder. So this one also applies in terms of that pinching into the front of your hip. So if you have some of that might just be due to your anatomical differences or some tightness that you have. But if you experience that, this is where you want to change maybe to this stretch as long as it's not bothersome. And if none of those stretches are giving you enough stretch, then you can always intensify that stretch. Use your bottom leg to come up above your ankle bones, and you can use your hands through to that opposite leg to help assist and hold that stretch. So again, those are 3 little variations you can do for this stretch of trying to get more of the outside part of your glute musculature and a little bit into your back, but mostly glutes. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to work back to that opposite leg one more time. Now that we've just loosened everything up, we want to do hip circles. So you're going to think of just moving your knee in a circle after you've just stretched it. We like to try to move your hip through multiple ranges of motion. And our hip is like a ball and socket, so it needs to be able to move in that direction. So once you've done one direction, then I want you to switch and do the other. And this helps get all of the muscles around the hip kind of calmed down and released after they've been feeling a little tight. Good. Now we're going to switch and do the other side. Again, hip circles. Pick one direction first. One side will probably feel easier than the other. This one feels really awkward to me, but I'm generally right-handed, so here we go. All right, and then switch and go the other way. Just about 5 circles each direction is good. And then to close it out, we're going to increase our hip stretch, but add a little extra low back stretching to it. So we're going to bring both knees up towards your chest, bring one knee up at a time, just for generalized back health. It's good to do one leg at a time instead of both. So we're going to hold both knees to your chest. Be mindful again of that pinching in the front of your hips. If you want to hold with your wrists, you can do that as well. But as you're here, I want you to think of taking deep breaths all the way through your rib cage. So you're going to hold this for about 5 deep breaths. So in through your nose, out through your mouth. And as you hold this position, I want you to feel the air as you inhale move all the way down to those 2 bony butt bones that you feel when you're sitting. You want to feel air move all the way through to between those glutes when you inhale, and then exhale all the way out. That will help not only release some of the muscles in your glutes, your low back, also parts of your pelvic floor, which all can get tight after a lot of repetitive resistance training. Okay, we're going to finish with just one last one on each side. We're going to straighten the opposite leg back out. You're going to grab one hand behind your knee, and we're just going to straighten your knee to a little bit of a stretch and relax down. We're going to do 5 on each side. The goal is to work towards your knee being straight, but if your leg can't get there, as mine can't, you don't force it. Listen to your body. Go as far as you can. You might be able to go a little further each time, but working only towards what your body can do and not forcing it just because you're trying to reach that goal. Good, now we're gonna switch legs. My opposite leg will go back down straight. My other leg that's up is perpendicular to the floor. My hands are behind my knee, and I'm straightening and bending. So this doubles both as a hamstring stretch, but also it works as a nerve glide. So it helps keep our nerves mobile in our body and sliding around so that when our muscles are tight, they're not putting too much pressure on the nerves that travel down the back of our legs. Good, and one more. Okay. All right, thanks so much for being here today.